Australia, the sixth largest country in the world, is full of mysteries and some painful stories hidden within its vast lands. Before the 17th century, Australia was considered a myth to the rest of the world, mainly because it remained disconnected from the global community for so long. Even today, scientists are uncovering secrets about Australia that were unknown just a few years ago. If you look at the map of Australia, you'll notice that 95% of its land is covered by deserts. About 90% of the population lives in the green areas, and of that 90%, 75% reside in just 3 cities: Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. Today, Australia is one of the wealthiest countries in the world with a life expectancy of 84 years. But it wasn't always this way. Around 150 years ago, the life expectancy of a child born in Australia was just 34 years. This wasn't only due to the harsh geography, but also because of some painful reasons that were hidden from the world. In the 18th century, Australia was a penal colony for the British. This means that it was a place where criminals were sent as punishment. But the question arises, who lived in Australia before the British arrived? Long before the Europeans came, Australia was inhabited by Aboriginal people for thousands of years. They had their own unique culture and lived in peace. Then came the 17th century, a time when Europeans were exploring the world in search of new resources. They discovered America, Africa, and India. During this time, Europeans reached Indonesia, but had no idea what lay beyond. In 1606, a Dutch explorer named Willem Jan Zoon was returning from Indonesia when his ship was caught in a storm and ended up in the Timor Sea, where he saw tall mountains in the distance. This was Australia. He reported his findings, and the news quickly spread. In search of new lands and resources, the Dutch East India Company sent explorer Abel Tasman to explore this unknown continent. In 1642, Tasman reached Tasmania after crossing Africa. He also discovered parts of New Zealand and Fiji. Tasmania is named after Abel Tasman. Then, in 1770, British explorer Captain James Cook set out with his companions to explore Australia. They reached Botany Bay on the eastern side of Australia, where they observed the locals, their culture and traditions. He reported back to the British Empire, and 8 years later, in 1778, Captain Phillips was sent with 300 soldiers to Australia. They quickly took control of the western coastline. From 1788 to 1868, the British sent over 160,000 criminals to Australia. But that's not all. The British also brought with them diseases to which the local Aboriginal people had no immunity, and they began dying rapidly. In the next 100 years, due to wars with the British and diseases, 90% of the Aboriginal population was wiped out. This is why, today, you mostly see white people in Australia, descendants of those Europeans and criminals who mercilessly took over the land from its original inhabitants. This is just one of the dark and hidden realities of Australia's history. There are many other things about Australia that most people don't know. In this video, we're going to tell you about 4 recently discovered mysteries of Australia. First up is the Marree Man. In 1998, a pilot named Dick Smith was flying his chartered plane from Moorebank to Coober Pedy when he suddenly noticed a huge figure on the ground. It was a geoglyph, a large design etched into the earth that can only be seen from the sky, similar to the famous Nazca lines in Peru. The surprising thing for Smith was that no one lived in this part of Australia, and this giant drawing, covering an area of about 3 kilometers, was located near the Woomera restricted area, where no one was allowed to enter. Even after 26 years, scientists have not been able to figure out who created this drawing, when, how, or why. The Marree Man remains one of Australia's biggest mysteries. Next is the Gympie tree. Found from Cape York Peninsula to the forests of New South Wales, this toxic plant can kill you within days if its thorn pricks you. No cure for its poison has been discovered yet, and those who survive the prick suffer from its pain for the rest of their lives. Australia's famous explorer A.C. Macmillan wrote in his biography that in 1867 his horse was pricked by this plant's thorn, and within just 2 hours it died in agony. Top zoologist Marina Hurley says that the pain from the thorn is like having acid thrown at you while also getting an electric shock. So, if you're planning a trip to Australia, be sure to avoid the Gympie tree because there's no antidote for its poison yet. Scientists have also made another significant discovery about Australia. Thousands of years ago, kangaroos as tall as 20 feet used to roam here. Scientists have found fossils in the mountains of Papua New Guinea that indicate that about 20,000 years ago, Australia had kangaroos twice the size of those today. But what happened to them remains a mystery. And not just kangaroos, scientists have also found fossils of 50-foot-long snakes here, which roamed Australia around 60,000 years ago. Imagine the sight when such giant creatures roamed the land. Who knows? There might still be a giant animal living in some part of Australia. Australia's final mystery is a secret military base located in the middle of the desert, known to very few people. This base is America's largest foreign military base. From here, America keeps an eye on the entire world. Not only that, but this base also played a significant role in wars like the Vietnam War, Afghanistan, and Iraq. If you drive 10 minutes southwest of the Australian city of Alice Springs, you'll start seeing warning signs. Beyond these signs is a top-secret joint intelligence base run by the American and Australian governments called Pine Gap. The official code name for this base is Project Rainfall. The base was established in 1970 during the Cold War between Russia and America. Today, around 800 people work here. All intelligence for Asia, Russia, and North Korea is gathered through Pine Gap, and no one is allowed to enter this area for 18 kilometers around the base. There are also many mysterious stories surrounding this base. In 2016, some residents of Allistown claimed to have seen UFOs flying around Pine Gap, but this claim was never verified, and it quickly faded from the news. However, this base has become a headache for Australia, as Russia recently threatened to target this base, which would cause significant damage to Australia. These were some of the things about Australia that very few people know. If you enjoy videos related to countries and its historical facts, you can watch them in the videos in that playlist. Please like, share and subscribe Archivefacts, and share your opinion in the comments below. See you in the next video with another interesting topic. Take care and goodbye.